6 p.m. If you can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to number 3, take a look at the agenda. If there's anything that we have to amend, now's the time to do it. I do know we need to move legal updates down on the agenda ways. Let's move it after 17 if we could. Being Austin is running behind. So number 8 will be moved to, we'll call it the 17th day.
I'll make a motion to change the agenda, moving line item number 8 to after line number 17.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to number 4, need a motion to approve minutes of February 20th, 2024 council meeting.
I'll motion to approve the minutes of the February 20th, 2024 council meeting. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to number 5, notice of public hearing, equalization board, March 19th. This is, it's due to property tax. If anybody has an issue throughout the city, or if any of you see something in your ward that you might think should be adjusted or concerns, that's when we're going to be dealing with that. And if there's anybody throughout the city that has concerns with their taxes, that would be the evening to talk about it.
And that notice will be posted in the newspaper this week.
Right.
And I have to go down to the courthouse on Thursday for a meeting about this. So I'll be down there Thursday morning.
Anything else in regards to number 5? If not, we'll move on to public input. Is there any public input here this evening? Dave?
David Larson. I'm sure the last thing you need is somebody named Larson tell you how to do your job. Couple things on the agenda I noticed that I would like to make comments about. Number 10, moving the city offices. I read in the minutes that you're thinking about moving, at least temporarily, to the old golf course clubhouse. I'm out there quite a lot. The place needs windows, the air conditioner isn't working, plumbing isn't too good, it needs to be sited. So if you're going to make this the visible city proper, something that is going to be the official face of the city, it's going to take a little bit of work. I don't know, maybe you're going to get evicted from here. I don't know what the situation is, but it's going to take some money to make it usable out there, unless you're going to just use it for a little bit. Number 17, talking about the surplus of the bar building. I've been considering this to be a good move for the city for a while. It'd be nice to have somebody in that business, so the building isn't vacant. It'd be nice to have the building on tax rolls, and I'm sure it'd be nice to have another place that patrons could go and have a drink and socialize. So hopefully you'll consider that when you get to that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public input? If not, we'll move on. Number 7, the water meter project proposals. What's up?
Can we go over it?
I mean, briefly, if you would like to, otherwise if you know what direction we're going to head.
She called, you called somebody.
Yeah, wasn't able to talk to everybody, and some other people Lonnie talked to Dave and with Terry as well. I had just questioned last week when we, at our meeting, Dave had given us a new estimate from Metering Solutions for 71,000, and which is significantly lower, and I was like, that doesn't quite make sense. Why exactly, like, why did it come down so much? So I said I would reach out, and that's because that new estimate is just for the new endpoint, nothing to do with any of the meters, so that's why it went down so much. But we know that we are going to have to replace some meters. We're just not sure how many. So if we just wanted to start with just doing the cellular endpoint, that's what that cost would be, and so that's why it's so much lower. After talking with Dave and speaking with the companies and speaking with Lonnie, I would recommend going with the Metering Solutions company over Core and Main. I do think it's just a better option for the city. Through Core and Main, it is more expensive. They also have higher annual fees. The annual setup alone, the initial setup alone is $54,000, whereas there's the engagement fee for Metering Solutions is $10,000, so significantly cheaper. It will still provide us exactly what we're looking for. Going to a digital reading, it reads 4 times a day. It's auto read to the office because it's all a cloud-based solution. So I guess that would be my recommendation, and I think Lonnie and Dave are in agreement as well. Anything else?
Just that we talked earlier about doing the, what is it, 71,800?
That's the proposal. So I redid the numbers. Lonnie had suggested we, instead of the original, when this was first brought up, was let's redo every single meter, and that's like 420-ish meters. Not all of them are going to have to be redone because this cellular endpoint will match all the ones that have been done through Core Main already. This will be attached to it and will work, as well as the representative thinks a little bit older version, which is called a Neptune, will also be eligible to be read by these. So that would even incorporate more. Lonnie thought that number was around 100. And so instead of going like full bore and doing every single one, because we don't know how many, Lonnie thought it might be okay to just purchase 100 meters and start from there, see when they start going in and redoing them, if that's enough, how many more we're gonna need and whatnot. So for 100 meters, it'd be about $15,000, $14,940 on top of that 71.
For about $86,810.
Yes.
That we figured.
And then this also does have a like user fee for it of 73 cents per house per month. So what do we figure that out to be? Roughly $320 some dollars
Yeah,
a
roughly
month.
about 3,600 a year.
And we could do it a couple ways. We could take that on under our water billing, like as our budget every year, and provide that endpoint. We could also, right now we have a $5 water surcharge that's going towards this project for every homeowner. So if we do that for, it's technically supposed to end, this is the last year, so if we wanted to continue it, we could, to get more money to completely cover this project without touching our water reserves, or we could use the water reserves that we have, and next year, instead of charging the $5 surcharge, we could just charge that 73-cent surcharge to the homeowner. But that doesn't necessarily have to be decided right now, but that will be a fee that will be incurred as soon as we switch over to the digital meters.
So will they put them in, or is Lonnie?
The endpoints, the cellular endpoints.
That's gonna end up being extra cost potentially. We haven't really discussed that portion of it. You know, some meters obviously will need to be changed, some won't. I would say, I don't know how to figure it out, which ones we do and won't, or, you know. But I would say if they're around 1 million gallon meter already, I would say that we just assume that that's gonna have to be done by a licensed plumber.
But the endpoints they will put on.
If they're there, they might as well put them on. So, but you probably didn't hear back from anybody. We were trying to get some info on
I did hear back from Dan Waterman. He said roughly $150 to $200 per meter to change out a meter. Could run a little bit more if it's complication, if they run into complications, it might be a little bit less if it's an easy change out.
But again, we're not gonna have to change all of the meters, because whatever has already been put in by Lonnie or whoever did it under Lonnie's direction previously, those meters will all work with this endpoint.
Endpoint wise, I think we can handle that, if, you know,
Because that's just going on the outside of the house.
so, you know, it's gonna be a little tough during the summer when it's, to get them in, but we have to come up with some sort of solution.
I think at this point, I'd highly recommend just moving forward with metering solutions. And worry about what meters need to be replaced at a further time, and then, you know, we just deal with it as it goes, but, we just, yeah, so that's my recommendation.
People don't have an option, everybody's gonna have to do it.
Right.
And also, we won't have to put an antenna up on the tower, right?
Correct, it's all
Yep.
cloud-based, so there's no
Cloud-based.
installation of anything,
Right.
cellular.
So there's no additional fee
I
there.
mean,
There's no worry about if they upgrade the cellular system from 5G to 6G. This is on a separate cellular carrier wave, so that upgrades as they upgrade from 4G to 5G, 5G to 6G will not interfere with these.
Well, I would like to make the motion that we go with metering and technology for digital meters at a cost of $71,870, plus an additional $14,940 for the extra 100 meters at a total cost of $86,810.
I'll second.
all right, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on, number 9, the wastewater treatment plant. You got an application.
In the
In this
table,
one?
yeah.
You can see on the back page 2, or on page, back to that main page of the payout, page 1, 2, column E that says this period, where those numbers come from. What word is that?
If you go to the next page, you go down to say number 8, amount due this application is also there. 217354.
I'll make a motion to approve paying application number 10 in the amount of $221,073.54.
I'll
Banner
second.
Associates.
I'll second it.
It's to industrial process.
Oh, sorry, to IPT.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to city office discussion. Miss, I guess I'll put a little bit of input in on this. I've been kind of sharing the idea throughout the city. I think there's a lot of opportunities if this building does not host the city office. There's been talk that possibly could be a nice senior citizen center. The senior citizen center downtown is getting, it needs work. But in regards to the city office, appreciate Dave's input on this. I think the old clubhouse, if we would do the work to it, regardless if it sits there or we use it, the building is paid for. It is an eyesore right now, so it does need to be dealt with one way or another. I think we should spend the money on it and try to make it look as nice as possible, give us some good curb appeal. And, you know, if it's a long term, you know, either way, anybody that comes to the city that is just new to the city, they pull in, they oversee the golf course and the old clubhouse. We ever develop going north, we develop north of the golf course. City office is somewhat central in Highway 11. This is my recommendation. I think we should do that. This does work nice for the city office, but it is another cost. And I don't know how many other cities are renting a city office. So you can go whatever direction you would like, but I've been getting some feedback throughout the city and I've been sharing the ideas. And there's a lot of people that agree this is way more than what we need.
Even with the input cost, what we have to put in over there, it'd still be cheaper long run than trying to maintain this.
Right, right. And I mean, is this building going to die if the city office leaves? I don't think so.
With that being said, this past Friday, the Industrial Park Board met. I was there as the city rep. One of the things that they brought up to bring into this discussion was the city office, if staying here, would that be something you'd be interested in if the Industrial Park Board would cover the costs of repairs and upkeep to the building? So something for you guys to think about, discuss further, and if we would want to sit down with them to talk more details with them about that.
That'd be fine, but boy, we gotta get after it, figure out which way we're gonna go with this.
Did they say why, like the change of heart all of a sudden?
I mean, the intention was never for them to push the city out. It was, you know, the original plan when the agreement was made and the city office moved here was for eventually for the city to take over ownership of this. They don't want the city to leave the building. They would like to see it continue to be used as the city office and having the thrift store and in the hopes that they can get the other rooms used down the road. And that's why they would like to see us stay and keep the building used.
Now, if they're gonna do maintenance in that, those bathrooms and different things.
Yep, and they're aware that you know, that there's a checklist of items that need to be looked at and repaired. But that's if the council would choose that option, you know, it'd be something to sit down with them and work out the details on how that would look and what that would look like.
But on a common rental agreement, as a landlord, that's their responsibility anyway if you're renting. So I mean, if we're going to continue paying $1,000 a month, that's standard, they would have to take care of the city hall. Maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but I guess I'm going rental property and I have to maintain it, you know, at least they have to.
Yeah, it's weird that it's all of a sudden.
I think the biggest issue is people are worried that the thrift store is going to close. That's where I'm getting flack. I get asked all the time, are you leaving? Are you leaving? Because they don't want that to fail. But yet I've heard that they'll keep it. But it's here, you don't know. Will they keep it so the thrift store can stay here? I don't know.
But if for some reason we do decide to stay here, we also still have to do something with that building activity. It needs, doesn't look good.
I mean, the question is, you have to ask yourself, do you want to pay $12,000 a year to rent at a city office? Look at the long-range forecast. Always look at a 10-year plan. I mean,
I guess to me, I don't think I would want to stay in this building, but I do think it would be nice to be on Main Street with the rest of the city per se.
correct.
As a long-term plan,
Yeah, that'd be the.
and do something else with the, building that we
Right.
own already to
Right.
bring in some sort of revenue, whether it be another, just like event building or, like whatever it might be, but have it be there for that, or turn it into a business or whatnot, but I don't know what the costs are gonna be to renovate it, so.
You just put the city offices in the bar.
I think we need that business.
Yeah.
We can do both.
Well, I mean, you know how far, what the city spend on the cop shop when they redid that? Dave, do you recall, I think you're on the
Seems
council.
to me 75,000.
So it had 100,000 in that shack. So I mean, that 100,000 might go away, a little ways on the old clubhouse.
Might do
Possibly.
siding and windows,
Right.
possibly.
I mean, we don't have to do anything, we can stay right where we are at, but, I kind of feel like we got sucked into this downtown Chinook. So that was the city storm shelter, that was multi-use building, but that's water over the dam. So. But I do not disagree with Kendra. I'd like to see the city office on Main Street. I mean, we don't want to see our Main Streets dying off.
So I think it'd be nice if we could move into that building temporarily and see like what other options, without also paying for this, like
Right?
what other options are available, what other funding sources are.
Renting just seems ridiculous to me.
What?
Or that renting just seems ridiculous to me.
Well, do we want to make a decision tonight?
Well, you're gonna have to ask yourself if you move into the old clubhouse, or you
That's
move
what
in
I mean.
as the condition stands, or, I mean, you better get a contractor lined up to
Yeah,
start
it's
doing
just-
something.
we need to go. I haven't been in there in years. I mean, it'd be nice to get eyes on it just to see what we're dealing with.
It's quite worn down.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't think it's had anything done to it since I've been back here.
Well, I guess the way I look at it, if we make some nice improvements on it out there as we can, or what we need to get in there initially, the money we'd save from not paying rent here each month. If we make the improvements out there, then we get to the point where we can do something downtown, it's gonna be, maybe we'd be in a position to make that into something that people could rent if they come to town for some function,
Are we still paying utilities here too, on top of the 1,000?
No,
The 1,000
that's
is,
two, yeah.
That just covers, that covers.
Oh, when's our last one?
What's that?
May.
Well, and then I think I'd have to look at the lease again, but I think after that, it just goes to a month-to-month kind of.
Okay.
And then we have to, we're required to get notice. If we decide to go.
I mean, of course, you don't want your city office being an eyesore when people, people can come in to pay their water bill or something, or somebody's wanting to move to town and they say, oh, this is your guys' city office? I mean, in my opinion, curb appeal goes a long ways in town. And I guess I see some of the residential side of things really going downhill fast, and I do not like it. And I don't want a city office looking tough.
One thing that I gotta bring up is if you do vote to move to the clubhouse temporarily and then do something else, it's a lot of work to move an official government address. There's a lot of paperwork behind it, so to have to do that twice is gonna be a major headache. So if we want to do something permanent downtown, personally, I prefer we only do it once and stay here until we're there. And then we're not spending money on that to fix it up to move in, and then now we're not gonna be there, now we're done being there and we're in a permanent location, and now we've gotta spend more money to fix it, to use it to what the final use is going to be. So just something else to think about. It's not as easy as a simple change of address form. There's a lot of legal things involved with changing the physical address of the city office. There's a lot of federal registrations that we have to change with.
Table it? We don't have to do anything, just a discussion, so.
Yep. I don't have anything else.
Anybody else in regards to city office discussion?
Well, at least we'll get this off. You'd have some idea what's, maybe something will happen. Maybe.
Another thing that they discussed on Friday is the potential if, when tearing this off, if something happens and the tear off to the
I
middle
was
of the
wondering
shoe.
that watching that video you posted.
There is that possibility that damage could occur. And if damage occurs, they're gonna the industrial park board owns that section. So if there's damage to that, they may end up just having to tear that down as well. They're just gonna have to assess it if something happens to that addition, when the original addition comes down.
Any other discussion? If not, moving on to number 11, mailbox ordinance, first reading. Go ahead.
Ordinance 2024-02, ordinance of the city of Alcester, South Dakota, providing for reimbursement of broken mailboxes caused by city vehicles during snow removal operations. Now therefore be it ordained by the city of Alcester, South Dakota, that chapter 6.0304 be added to read as follows. 7.0402 mailbox reimbursement. In the event that a city vehicle causes damage to a residential mailbox during the course of snow removal activities, the city shall reimburse the affected property owner the sum of $25 to cover the cost of mailbox repair or replacement. Reimbursement will not occur if it is deemed that the snow moved with a city vehicle results in the damage. The property owner must report the incident to the city finance officer within 48 hours of the occurrence. The report should include the following information: date and time of the incident, location of the damaged mailbox, description of the city vehicle involved if known, any available photographic evidence. Upon receipt of the report, the city shall initiate an investigation into the incident to determine the veracity of the claim. The investigation may include interviews with city employees involved, examination of the damaged property, and any other relevant information. Following the completion of the investigation, the city finance officer shall present the findings to the city council for approval of the reimbursement. The city council shall review the evidence and, if satisfied, approve the reimbursement of $25 to the affected property owner dated this day of 2024.
Thank you, Dave. Any other discussion in regards to that?
Are we gonna put on there that it was, did Austin say that last time, once a year? I didn't say anything about that.
It was kind of talked about, but it was not included in this.
I don't know.
And that it would be at the owner's expense to put it in.
We can bring those corrections back.
That part definitely needs to go in.
I don't think there's any like wiggle room around it, but I don't think it would hurt to just have it.
Black and white.
Yeah.
We don't want to change that one time per year.
I would say those two things, yeah, that it can only be reimbursed once a year, and that,
Has to be installed.
that the 25, it does say to cover the cost of the mailbox, but it says to cover the cost of the mailbox repair or replacement. So does that mean that we will repair it, or, you know, I think it should just be that it would, you know, be for materials and no labor.
Installation.
Thank you.
Somebody, I drive around town, somebody's mailbox walks by regularly, and they got a T-post next to them, and it's gonna,
Every winter mine gets all crooked and I have to go out and bend it back, just from the snow, getting pushed up against it.
I guess, do we think that this should not be even a thing then?
well, it was discussed last year.
They have to prove that the city gave them, did even go anywhere with it.
I'll bring those changes back to Austin.
Yeah.
Thank
Bring it
you.
back to the council meeting next meeting.
Anything else in regards to the mailbox ordinance? If not, we will move on to number 12, forensic audit discussion.
I placed this on here just to have the discussion about, it's been brought up in meetings before about a forensic audit. Multiple people since I've started have recommended it to me. I reached out to the Office of Legislative Audit Director, Rod. He said it would ultimately be up to the council if you would decide to move forward with wanting a more in-depth audit than what our regular audit covers. But he also wanted question if concerns that people had could be covered within the scope of our annual audit. I have not gotten an answer back on that from our auditor. But just wanted to bring it up and let you guys discuss if you feel like we need a more in-depth audit, or if I have not been through an audit yet. Our 2022 audit is nearly finished. I did get that out of her. But I'm not familiar with the process. So for those of you that are more familiar with it, if you feel like that's something, if questions about anything could be covered under the scope of that audit, or if you feel a more in-depth, thorough audit is required.
My first impression is no, I don't think we need it. Speaking with the auditor's office when I did the budget, they could easily answer any of my questions. I guess I didn't have any concerns except the questions I brought to them, and they were very easily able to open our files, answer them, clarify what I thought were misunderstandings. So I guess if there are other concerns, it should be asked if they can just answer them.
And I have not seen any major red flags or anything. It's just it's been brought up to me enough times. I felt it
I don't
deserves
think
to be
really
brought.
people understand what the city audit is even.
And that's
like,
possible.
What it encompasses, and I think just letting them know that any red flag that has been brought up within the last couple of years had been remedied, for whatever the reason was. And hopefully within the next year when you bring everything in, anything that would show up at that time. I think at that point, if we see big discrepancies, then maybe we could look into it again, but it's
Hadn't the auditors red flagged you a little bit though?
What's that?
Didn't the auditors red flag you a little bit?
She had questions, they sent questions back.
Yeah, 'cause I got one.
But they sent, they sent a list of questions, I think it was to you, to Lucas and to myself, asking, if there was any concerns, if we felt there was any fraud or abuse or anything like that. But we haven't gone over any of their findings yet. I'm hopeful that we'll have those shortly, that we can go over those.
Well, I'd say when we get the report back, we need to confirm with them that you're safe. So it can't come back on date.
I would agree, yeah, I don't want anything to come back on me for sure, but.
I know they're very expensive, so it would be a very costly endeavor.
Everything, $7,000 something.
How much?
Weren't they like $7,000? Isn't that the cost we gave us?
I think it was closer to 10,
Was it? Okay.
if I could be incorrect, so.
That's a lot of money for some what if.
And not only that, it will literally shut down the office long tooth and nail will be dug through.
That's all I had on that. I just wanted to.
I mean, if
bring it up.
somebody feels that should be done, I'm not trying to oppose it, I'm just saying.
I would say, let's see what the auditor does say. That should be coming. And if there's red flags, then maybe we better discuss it. Yeah. I think they're aware, I took it by the questions they asked me, they are aware there is concern. So I think maybe they would say if they felt, don't you think?
That's the feeling I got. You know, I asked questions when I first started, and they didn't have any major concerns at that time last fall. So,
The biggest thing is the unknown, and that was their questions.
And that's where the public is pushing for more knowledge.
Yes,
And we all know that. But there's nothing there, there's nothing, I mean,
right.
throw $10,000 in something for no reason, just unless we see something that's a little more set in stone, like there's all these problems.
I think a large amount of this boils down to just how the money was spent in the past and where it was spent.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, there is a fair amount of percentage of the community that is not approved of how the city was spending its money.
But that doesn't mean it was done wrong, you know what I mean?
No,
It
I'm just
was-
saying, that's
yeah.
where I think we're getting some viewpoints from people out of the city, throughout the city. And that's maybe why they're thinking this, is because, well, why didn't the money get spent where it should have been spent?
Correct.
So where did that money all of a sudden go, and they don't realize that that money had to got moved? Possibly, I'm not saying that's the reasoning, but I'm just speculating to a degree.
Yeah, I think we just wait for the existing audit to come back, and if there's anything major there, then they might pay to look into it. But if they didn't see anything from what they've been telling Dave, then I don't see a need for it.
Because he has to do the big state, big report, right? You
yeah,
just told me
the
that.
annual report's in process.
So.
I'll have that to you in May.
He's got some questions there, so things could.
Hopefully though, once everything, you'll know.
Well, anything else in regards to it? If not, we'll move on. Number 13, wastewater collection system phase 1 resolution.
So resolution 2024-01 is environmental certifying officer. Whereas the city of Alcester has determined the need for the collection system improvement project, and whereas financial assistance will be necessary to enable the city to construct the project, and whereas the city of Alcester wishes to request assistance from the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program of the South Dakota Governor's Office of Economic Development, and whereas the city of Alcester is required to designate an environmental certifying officer for the purpose of signing required environmental documents pertaining to this grant, whereas the city of Alcester is required to designate a project certifying officer for the purpose of signing required environmental documents pertaining to this grant, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Alcester hereby authorize the filing of a community development block grant application with the South Dakota Governor's Office of Economic Development, including all understandings and assurances contained therein. The city of Alcester hereby authorizes its mayor to act as the project certifying officer and environmental certifying officer for the purpose of signing correspondence and other required documents and forms. In the mayor's absence, the council president is authorized to act as the project certifying officer and environmental certifying officer in connection with the application and other required forms, dated this 5th day of March 2024. This was done in conjunction with CCOG to get this application started.
So we need a motion to do this?
Approve the first reading. I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of the water waste collection system phase 1 resolution Resolution 2024-1, Environmental Certifying Officer.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to number 14, Finance Office. 14A, approve February warrants. And then, so yeah, we need a motion on
I'll make a motion to approve the February warrants.
I'll second
that. Have a motion and a second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on, 14B, Assistant Superintendent of Public Works, hiring Shane Swenson for $22 an hour.
So Lonnie and I interviewed a number of individuals. Lonnie and I both agreed that Shane would be a great candidate. He's local. He's got some background. So good to put him forward for Assistant Superintendent of Public Works, effective immediately.
This does need to be a roll call.
Yeah.
Correct. When you make that motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion to hire Shane Swenson at $22 an hour as Assistant Superintendent of Public Works. Roll call vote.
it. I'll second
Have a motion and a second, any other discussion? If not, Brian?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Carrie?
it. Aye.
Abstain.
So we got 3. Okay, motion has passed. Moving on to 14C, records destruction list.
In process of trying to declutter and clean up the city office, you have a list of proposed records for destruction, and the list of the records is on the left, and the off number from the South Dakota Records Retention Manual is on the right-hand side. So there's warrants dated August through January of 1962, September 62 to December 66, October 67 to December 69, February of 1970 to December of 1972, and January 19 to December of 2019. 1970 to 1972 bank statements, 1973 to 1988, and 1988 to 1999 budgets. Annual reports from 1973 to 1988, and then 1988-99, and then as well, audit reports from same years, 1999 and 2000 annual report info, 1975 to 1994 completed contract bids, 2018, 2019 water billing sheets, 1985 to 2011 payroll, 2003 sewer plant specifications and bid sheets, and 2002, 2003 QuickBooks financial printouts. If you have any questions, you can read through the destruction off, but they all fit within the regulations to you.
If for something were to happen and you did go ahead with that forensic audit, would you want to keep the warrants from 2019 to have, just because it was under the previous finance officer?
I reached out and asked that question while I was doing that, and those would not be included because they're also listed in other things that cannot be destroyed.
Okay, perfect, that's all I wanted
Is there a minimum number of years, Dave, that we have to retain?
It depends on what record you're talking about. Council meeting minutes have to be retained permanently, whether it be hard copy or electronically. Other records, like some of them, it's keep a year, store 3 years, destroy after 4 years.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to see council meeting minutes from 1893 to 1902, I have the book. So I just,
Probably way less
I
complicated.
would,
Yeah.
to approve the destruction of this list. I'll make a motion to approve destruction of all documents on the record destruction list for March of 2024.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to 14D, election updates.
Because the petitions that were turned in, all petitions returned were unopposed. So the city will not be required to hold an election. And I did reach out in the school board. They will not be required to hold an election either. So the April 9th election is not going to be happening. So, but there will still be the primary in June and then the general in November. So but the April election will not be required. So the first May meeting will be the swearing in of the and seating of the new council.
Thank you, Dave. Any other discussion in regards to the election update? If not, we'll move on to 14E, budget reports.
Just look through, I printed out, there will be on your top sheet, separate from everything. This is what, on a monthly basis, I'll be able to get to the council from the previous month and year to date for budget. Top sheet showing revenue, budget year to date, and where we're at. So you can look through, and then behind that is each individual department's budget versus expenditure reports. So that will be provided with this new software on a monthly basis. And then I'll also be able to give that to each individual department so they'll know where they're at from their budget. And it lists it line item by line item so they can see exactly what's spent where. So that's good.
Any questions in regards to it?
Questions on any of that you're seeing?
When do we pay to the county for their services?
It's quarterly, so I'll make that first payment at the end of this month. And I need to reach out to her and see figure out what the number is with the prorated for January.
Oh.
So that'll happen quarterly.
Well, you can take it home, look it over, and if there's something else that,
Yeah, if you have any questions,
Right.
please reach out. I'll be sending those out to the department heads tomorrow.
Is there an electronic version of this?
Yeah, I'd say to a PDF.
Can you just send that, at least to me, instead you don't have to print out everything?
Yeah, that's kind of my plan, is that way you don't have,
much paper.
yeah, so. I'll include it with your email packet at the beginning of the month.
I personally am fine with that.
And I appreciate you coming up with this, because I'm wondering, that's why I asked where we were at with this stuff. This is nice of you.
Anything else in regards to the budget reports? If not, we'll move on to 14F, City Park meeting Thursday at 6:30 at the city office. Hopefully we have a good turnout. We get some.
Heard from a lot of people that they're planning on attending. Several people have already said that they've got some ideas of things to do, people to reach out to for assistance, stuff like that. So if you know of anybody that hasn't heard about it, they should have all gotten a mailer. But I encourage everyone to attend. So. Right.
Anything else in regards to the meeting Thursday night? If not, we'll move on to number 15, the water tower. This is in your packet. It's in regards to maintaining and inspecting. I think the last time we had this done was in 2019, if I remember right.
I think did I include the 2019?
Yeah, it says that.
Yep, that's it.
So I happened to see this when I was looking at the capital improvements project in the budget. Reached out to Lonnie. We reached out to a number of companies that we had contacts for. Several of them are out of business. Of the 3 that we got proposals back for, McGuire was the cheapest by almost half. They're all over what's budgeted in the capital improvements plan, but this was the closest. So we talked to Chad at McGuire. He proposed the first thing that's in your packet is a 5-year contract for services with McGuire. Year 1 would be this year would be the clean out and inspection. And then it'd be every other year, which is the recommendation. And then on year 5, it would be the clean out, the inspection of the interior, and then it would also include the exterior pressure wash. So that's why the price jumped. And we would not pay the entire contract up front. It would be the years that we do the work, we would pay. So this year it would be $2,175. One of the things that we talked about when we were discussing with him that was in the 2019 report was on their last report, the exterior coating was listed as in fair condition, and it was recommended that it had approximately 3 years of useful life remaining, and that the interior coating was also in fair condition and had approximately 8 years of useful life remaining. And then the other thing, there was interior ladder and drain plug were in poor operational condition and would need to be replaced during the next refurbishing. They are planning on coming down to assess that for us at no cost. They've been at conferences in Texas and Minnesota, so they have not gotten down. But if the council would like to move forward with getting that scheduled so we can get that done this year, if you're satisfactory with the contract, you could do that, or if we would want to engage them for just the one-time cleaning, it would be that cost under year 1 at $2,175. I like the idea of that 9-year contract because it locks us in at that clean out and inspection price. The previous, on the capital improvement plan, it was 1,700 and something the last time they did it. So I mean, obviously with COVID, everything's gone up in price, but this would lock us in at that price for the next 9 years. And they would start looking at renewing that, a couple of years prior to expiring. And then something else just for you to keep in the back of your minds through this year, the exterior is going to need to be repainted. It is listed on the capital improvement plan for next year. So we'll need to continue to have that conversation of that cost. It's on the capital improvement plan for $100,000.
Can they do that, or do we have to?
They can, yes. And they did send me a sample contract that we can go over if that's what you want to do. I did not include that in this year's.
I think given the span of that contract, I think the pricing is pretty reasonable. Little Beersford did theirs several years ago, and from what I was told, it was extremely expensive. And they had painted as well, but I know just the maintenance on it, I mean, this seems pretty fair in my mind.
I think so too.
Are they the same? They're the same ones that did it before, right?
They've done some work on it. The company that did the inspection in 2019, they're retired out of business.
Oh, okay.
But they have done some work on the tower prior to. in the capital improvement plan, budgeted for this work for this year was 1,500, so we're budgeted $675 short. But it's still well within our abilities to take care of that. So let us know your thoughts and which route you guys would like to go.
I don't really think we have a big choice. Look at the pictures of some of this inside the water tower, it's kind of not good.
And it is supposed to be cleaned out and inspected every other year, and it's been going on 4.5 now. So
It's gonna have to get done regardless, we might as well lock the price in,
Yeah,
you know, under contract instead of just redoing it every,
you look at some of these connection pieces, and it's kind of scary.
we know those prices aren't gonna come down.
And there's funds in the water budget.
what's that?
There's funds in the water budget.
There is. I mean, we'll just have to. I mean, it's not in that budgeted line item. It's in the
The department budget.
department budget. So
I'll make a motion to approve using McGuire water contract for the services proposed.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to number 16, the Safe Streets and Roads for All Grant Program.
So this is I think I included a copy of the letter from CCOG. They are applying for planning and demonstration grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. If we would want to be eligible for applying for money from CCOG, if they are awarded this grant, we would need to opt in to this program with CCOG. And there is a draft letter that we would have to do. Just what it is we would commit to contributing a local match of $2,500 to meet the 20% match cost share. So any community that wants to be eligible for receiving these funds has to commit to contributing that $2,500, which is match cost share. So in the letter, it shows you some of the different things that it can be used for. I think the last time they did this, Lonnie, was this part of what they used for the sidewalk and stuff going across Highway 11?
I'm not sure if that was the same thing or not, because it was
Safe routes to school.
Okay. So it's a similar idea of, just improving safety on and near the streets of the city.
We're not out anything. I would recommend it.
I think the highway from the school across, you see kids everywhere on that road where if something would come up, I think that would be a good crossing point on that main road. A lot of kids walking on that over across to the golf course and the football field and
Well, and this, it can really mean anything, because if you're just trying to improve safety, that could be improving the road to have less potholes, to improve the
Yeah.
safety of driving conditions. I mean, you could word it to cover any type of safety issue, to make it relevant.
see something at the
Huh?
park.
Yeah,
So if the council would want to move forward with that, just I get that if you guys approve that.
Great.
So do we need a motion?
but then that would mean the total grant project would only be 12,500.
Yeah, it's not a huge grant, but it's more than what we have.
No, right, so I'm just, so everybody understands that it wouldn't be a lot, because that wouldn't cover a lot of asphalt or infrastructure if you're taking out anything. So it would have to be something fairly small.
It's up to you. You'd like to pursue it, we need a motion, if not, we'll move on.
I'll make the motion to approve Harley Wright issue, the one who will be,
So it's CCOG that's applying for the grant.
so approve CCOG.
So it would be, approving committing the city to,
I'll make a motion to approve the $2,500 opt-in fee for the grant through CCOG.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on, number 17, bar discussion, we need a motion to approve surplus of the bar building. That's the section. It did get appraised, right, Dave? You
he was
just-
here, he was here yesterday morning, we'll have the report next week. But, we can, without having the report, we can still approve surplusing it. We just can't list it for sale until we have the appraisal back.
I'll make a motion to approve the surplus of the bar building.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now we're moving on to legal updates with Austin.
Did everybody get a copy of the ordinance, Dave?
Yeah, we did, we read it, there's no changes that they want.
Okay, what specifically, I guess, while we're, do you have the edits?
What's that?
Do you have the edits that they want to it?
Yep.
The first one is just to, what? Once a year, sorry.
Yep.
And then the second one was just the verbiage at the top paragraph, it said $25 for like, to replace or repair. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that it would just be for the materials that we would do only for. Does that make sense? I just feel like with the word repair in there, people are gonna be like, well, you said you made something along those lines, and I worded it.
Yeah, and that was really the only thing I had for the updates, executive session at the end, because I have something to ask. But other than that, I don't have any other legal updates. Like I said, hopefully this, I can make the edits and we can have them at the next meeting. Hopefully there's no more snow. But regardless, this is something that I think you guys are going to have in place moving forward, so.
Thank you.
No more legal updates at this time, so we will move on to number 18, special assessment tax discussion. I had talked to Dave about this. I've told him to put it on the agenda. I think it is a very unfair way to tax somebody. If you have a $300,000 house and a 120-foot of curb, you have somebody else that has a $300,000 house with 40-foot of curb, do you think everybody should be paying the same? Just the way I see it. I don't agree with it.
Dave, you're here, and I asked this Dave about it. Do you know how that ever came about? That curb?
Yeah, well, we needed some money to help fix up the streets, and I think that was one of the easiest suggestions that came up. I think we were at the top of the mill levy, so we couldn't raise the property taxes anymore.
Okay, because I can't remember being on when we did it, and I was trying to figure out how it all came about.
Well, and I guess I understand it, they call it curb tax, it's special assessment, but when people would call the city office, Pat would always say, or Dave, not Dave, excuse me, our code enforcer, Jeff, he'd always say it's a curb tax, so it's so much per foot. Maybe that's why they called it curb tax, because it went by the footage of the curb. I'm not exactly sure, but of course, when you have somebody that has a curb shop, and they call the city office and say, well, I'm paying this curb tax, how they understand it. Well, that curb is still their responsibility unless it's a new curb going in, as in a new development area. That's how I understand this. So, I mean, I'm not saying we should take it completely away, but I think we should assess it. So if the house is worth $100,000, it's so much per thousand, or something. I'm not saying, you know, I guess I just don't agree with how it is right now.
I mean, the hopes would be that we don't assess it at all in
And
the
that,
budget.
and is, since he asked me to put it on the agenda, it is something that is discussed every year and redone for the next year's budget. So it's something that you can continue to discuss throughout this year, and then as we work on the budget, can be changed. We just have to make sure that we get that to the county 90 days in advance of the end of the year, because it has to be to the county within a certain time frame. So if we're going to do that, you know, the sooner, if you're gonna change that, the sooner the better.
Yeah, so like you said, it was used at a point that just like funds were needed.
Right.
And I think since then it has been brought to the council as that option. As like, hey, can we just approve this because this is like a cushion for things that we could do. I think if we looked at our budget more strategically and like, obviously everybody knows I shove numbers in your guys' faces, really looked at the pennies and got it down to the dollar, I think it would be nice to try and stray away from that as much as possible and rely on the actual funds that we're getting as a government instead of pulling from our citizens as much. And I do, going over at least this previous budget, I do think we could get there. So I think it would be better, not saying that it can't change the verbiage if we decide to do it going forward to, you know, be based on the property value than how big your front lawn is, but I do think as an overarching goal, we should try and get rid of it altogether. Or use it for something that would actually pertain to the, like you said, the curb appeal of our
The original intention.
Right.
yeah.
I don't know if you can. I think that's, like, I think you have to use it on streets.
The curbs?
Yeah.
It's
I'm pretty sure it's like.
in your budget.
all street stuff.
Yeah, but like, it's not like designated for one specific thing.
Right, it's a general umbrella coverage. for
Right, so
street.
anything you wanted to
Yeah, so I'm
put,
looking at it right now.
at least for what it looks
I
like.
could have been informed
It
wrong.
says the
but-
entire cost may be paid out of funds of the municipality not otherwise appropriated. So the cost of the local improvement, such as for curb or the street, it can be paid out of there. I don't see anything necessarily requiring it to be paid out of that. My position is that if there is an assessment that's done, the tax from the assessment needs to go back to what it's assessed for, so, and that's for the local improvement on the properties joining. Sorry, I'm getting slow on this.
Because it seems like to me, it was going through, it was streets is why we did it, because there wasn't enough money to fix streets, and that's why we had to do it, otherwise we couldn't do it. Am I remembering that right? That's where I think it came from.
But like I'm saying, so like if Lonnie in the street budget wanted $100,000 piece of equipment just because he wanted it, and it would fix the streets, but it wasn't necessary, that money could be used for it. So is it like necessary that we assess them for that?
So I don't know, my position is I don't think we can do what Lucas's suggestion where it goes based on the house value. It needs to go based on the number of feet fronting or abutting the improvement. So it has to be calculated with the length associated as such. They can construct and finance combined improvements, so it has to be specifically for the improvement. So the assessment has to go back to the way it's assessed. So if it's being assessed, say it's a curb, that money has to set separately and go towards what it's being assessed for.
And this year it is, it's all for the extra asphalt and,
And that would be an
whatnot.
allowable purpose of it. Now, if you wanted to use that money elsewhere, I would say you're not allowed to do that.
I'm not sure about anything previously, but I know right
It's
now it
always-
is.
It's always paid for chip sealing or
Yeah,
asphalt.
that's what it is
or
going
asphalt.
for this fiscal year.
But it doesn't prevent the city from adopting a new resolution, reducing it or abolishing it altogether. If we do something different like that, we need to have a hearing, a public hearing, and allow for people to comment on the resolution.
I think people get confused because I've been jumped, well, how come we don't even have curb? And they think because it's called curb, it's gonna fix their curb.
Well, it doesn't even necessarily mean it's gonna fix their street.
No,
Like,
and they get upset about
Yeah,
it,
it-
yeah.
Yeah, it could go back to any part of
Yeah.
the road itself.
Yeah.
So should we also, like, street improvement tax?
Yeah, it just goes off the lineage curve,
Right.
so that's
I
what it's.
mean, I don't think you call it a curb tax rate with that, you just call it a special assessment. It's based on,
Well, when you get your assessment from the county, it's listed as special assessment current. That's how it's. when you get
Yeah, it's
your-
on your tax thing.
well, because it's based on how long the curb is.
Yeah.
That's what you call it.
That's why they do it.
That's why they call it that way. It's not necessarily what it's used for.
I guess I'm not saying we should take it away, but I just don't think it's a fair tax to each homeowner.
Well, yeah, because you take like, what's this, out there where they got the historic Hayden house, you know, you go up behind there. Some of them are pie shaped, so you're actually,
They're out front.
yeah, it's outrun is little, where the next place might be big, so, I mean, it just doesn't seem fair that the person that's got a little frontage
Yeah, or a
pays anything,
corner.
and they're sitting there with a $500,000 home.
Right. It was just a discussion, you know, I think.
Does any other cities that you know do this?
Yeah.
They said it was really common.
Very, very.
I questioned it when I put it into the budget, like, do we need to continue this? Because I had to have it in by a deadline.
It's extremely common for municipalities to utilize this to go back to main streets.
And they treat you under the alcohol footage.
Yeah, you're required to. Because the specific language, there's, so the special assessments may be determined, so I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be determined by that, looking at it. Those, assess, may be determined by dividing the total cost of the improvements by the number of feet fronting roadways and property erosion, maybe assessed it says may, so theoretically you can change it however you want. I would have to do more reading into that though, just to make sure. The statute itself makes it appear that you can use a different calculation. But there's still an investigation that the governing body would have to do to determine what local improvements specifically there are and how you're going to calculate that.
I think it's something worth looking into and just seeing for the next time. Not just approving it to approve it and see what it's actually gonna be for, or,
You can research it a little bit more, Austin, and
Yeah,
bring up some stuff, and then as we start working on the budget this year, we can bring some other options forward and let the council discuss which options they would like to pursue.
yeah, so the more I look at this, I think there's two separate ways for assessment. It's either that, or you can assess it equally against all lots of tracks. So instead of going by footage that the road abuts. You can instead just assess it to each lot and track individually. And I can follow up with Dave and get information on to you, so you have specifically correct about this.
Anything else? Now, moving on to number 19, executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 if needed.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-23.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We are in at 7:16 PM.
That went down for school.
Yeah.
So any excess would actually come down.
We are out of executive session at 7:34 PM. Moving on to number 20, I need a motion to adjourn council.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We adjourn the city council at 7:34 PM as well.